Good evening. This is episode 3 of the Skinscast. I'm Chris Garrison, your host, and it's very simple what we do here. We just talk about the Redskins, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there was a lot of ugly this weekend. Wow. Didn't see this game really coming at all. I guess we'll just dive right in. Last week after the Seahawk game, I talked a good bit about, hey, let's not give that Seahawk game back. As usual, they don't listen to me. We gave it all back. One of the easiest things to do when you watch a football game is try to assign blame. Who lost it? Offense, defense, special teams. And sometimes it's hard to figure out, which outfit let which down. I think this one was fairly simple, just at a surface level. The defense was bad, and it was bad for a lot of the game. In fact, the only guy that the guy that saved this game and at least made it interesting, helped make it interesting at the end, was DJ Swearinger. But we'll start up front. The Vikings offensive line owned the Redskins defensive line in this game from the outset. The stats are going to show that the Vikings only averaged about 3.3 yards a carry, but that's a little bit misleading. They gashed the Redskins early and often through the first 2.5 quarters of the game. They really did a good job sealing, creating nice holes in the middle and for both running backs, McKinnon and Latavius Murray. The big thing, folks, that I'll take, that I kind of look at is our run defense has been on a slow decline statistically since Jonathan Allen's injury. It's hard to quantify just how good he was playing because when you look at his stat line, it does not jump out at you. But you go back and watch film of this guy, he was doing work. And it has an effect. He made whoever was beside him better as they rotated in and out. The rushing defense, the rush defense numbers show that. I feel like if you look at this game, and really you got the Seahawks. Had the Seahawks stuck with the run, we may have been in bigger trouble. They didn't have any, once they inserted Rawls into the lineup, he tore off some solid runs. The run defense right now is a worry. But again, injuries. Matt Ioannidis still out. McLean, McGee, they're good rotational players, but they're not guys that are going to blow plays up consistently for you. Same thing with Ziggy Hood. I thought we had It's hard to say that Preston Smith and Ryan Kerrigan did not make plays, didn't get some pressure because they did. It was just Case Keenum made some nice plays off schedule that it really kind of negated it. There were a couple of times where I felt like Redskins definitely could have picked up a couple of holding calls, but that wasn't why we lost the game. But right now, we're a pretty average defensive line, and when you're average in this league, you're going to struggle. And I think now the key going forward is, can Minuski scheme around it? Can he find some things that stunts? Can he create some pressures with the A-gap blitzes? He's got to do something to kind of help prop up this defensive line a little bit. Linebacking play, polar opposite really of what we saw. I thought by far this was Zach Brown's quietest game since he's been here. He didn't have the same impact in this game that he generally does. Will Compton, he went out in this game, I think early in the second half, and was replaced by Martrell Spate, who responded very quickly with some splash plays. Again, it's really hard to judge Compton on just about a half of play, but again, it just seemed like the defense as a whole really struggled to get any kind of footing against the Minnesota offense. The secondary was atrocious. Breeland struggled a little bit. He didn't give up the big plays that Josh Norman did on the other side, but nobody in this secondary when it was counting, when it really mattered, and that was from the first half to the first drive of the third quarter, played well. DeShav Everett struggled, and again, it was a pretty quiet game for DJ Swearinger until the 2 picks. I want to kind of park at Norman a little bit. He's had such a dominant year. I mean, teams just have not thrown at him, and when they haven't been successful with it. The Vikings just kind of went right at him. He bit badly on a double move on the first touchdown pass to Diggs, and that's not something you generally see Josh Norman do. But the great thing about Josh Norman is he owned it. He said, hey, we played like trash. We played like trash. We lackadaisical, struggled, and he wasn't out there making excuses. Folks, guys have bad games. They do. You're not going to be an all-pro, all-star every minute of every game. You're going to have mistakes. You're going to get beat. File it away. Move on. I did think it was interesting to hear DJ Swearinger say he was not happy with the mindset of this team during Friday's practice. He did not feel like they had the mental focus they needed. They weren't as sharp. And I think when you hear your team leader say that and then you see the results of that on Sunday, yeah, you better listen to this dude. And better yet, the guys around him better listen to him. I don't want to wail away on this defense because I feel like we're a lot better structurally in every phase than we have been the last 2 years. But this defense right now is kind of at a maddening point because we've had 2 really outstanding games this season. The Raider game, where we allowed the fewest yards that a Redskin defense has allowed in the last 25 years. And then this guy, the Seattle game, which they gave up over 400 yards, but they fought, they scrapped, they gave up 14 points, total. I was hoping that at some point we could find a footing. We followed up the Raider game with a really rough outing against the Chiefs. And that's maybe being kind. It was not a good game against the Chiefs. And we followed up a really good outing against the Seahawks with their worst performance of the season. So I don't know if we have some guys that think maybe we're better than we are. I know we're nicked up. We're beat up in some areas. Can't discount that. You can't. But mentality-wise, I think that's what I was the most concerned with. It just looked like they were just very lackadaisical, it seemed like. They just didn't really play with a sense of urgency until late. You can't control injuries, but you can control your effort. And so I'm hoping these guys will bring it and bring it hard because their backs are against the wall. They're playing the Saints in New Orleans, and right now the Saints might be the most efficient offense in the NFL, bar none. Offensively, well, I guess we've all had our fill. If you've been on Twitter, Instagram, whatever, Facebook, everybody has either chalked this game up to Kirk Cousins losing it or injuries losing. I mean, we've hashed out who's to blame, who's not to blame. Obviously, Kirk had a scintillating start. 17 points on the first 4 drives. He had 2 touchdowns and a field goal wrapped around 1 drive, ended a punt. Everything was cruising until the interception. He didn't step into the throw, did have somebody at his feet, and he overthrew it. Just a bad play. Bad throw. Guys do it. But it was a pivotal interception because it completely changed the complexion of the game based on what happened after halftime when the Vikings went right down the field and scored and made it 35-17. So what was a 17-14 lead for the Redskins dissolves into a 35-17 deficit. I thought Kirk had some incredible throws. The Maurice Harris throw was fantastic, and it was an even better catch. I mean, Maurice Harris didn't really win on that route, and I think that's what's amazing about it because he didn't really gain a lot of separation. In fact, he didn't really separate. But Kirk threw a perfect ball, a little bit of an outside stem on the route, which was great because it did allow, in the way the ball was placed, Harris was able to kind of use his body to shield from Trey, the defender. I mean, just one-hand catch, man. That was fantastic. For all you folks who want to see Kirk push it down the field, that had to make us happy. I mean, had to make everybody happy. We're talking about, the 2 30-plus yard passes to end the Seattle game, plus this 30-yard pass. I mean, we were clicking along pretty good. I thought, in between that area, too, Samaje Perine was running the best he's run all season. I thought he looked much more decisive on his cuts. And they did some zone runs with him that he seemed much more comfortable with than he did early in the year. But the game, when you roll into the third quarter with your first possession, you're down by 18, the running game can't really be a focus. The Redskins had really one big opportunity to get back in this football game, and that's when they drove down and ended up having to kick the field goal instead of punching it in. And, of course, that drive was set up by a great pass to Chris Thompson. Yes, had it been a little more perfect, it probably was a touchdown. But, again, he did have some pressure in his face. He had to get rid of the ball maybe a little sooner than he wanted to. Still a great play to be made. And 3 straight passes, you have Josh Dotson fall. It's bad luck. I mean, what else can you say, man? It's not a bad throw. It's not a bad decision. It's there. He's open. He failed. Crowder drops the second one near the pylon. Crowder bobbles it at the back of the end zone, allows the defender to get his arm up between his chin and the football, and before you know it, you're kicking a field goal. At that point, I think my son and I looked at each other and thought, there went our best chance. Because if you can come out of there and be 11 down with still about 6 or 7 minutes, I think, to go in the third quarter, you would have been in pretty good shape. But down 35-20, you're still down 2 full scores. And the rest of the game was just kind of stop and start. Again, the interception return down to the 2. The Redskins made that interesting, but did score in that one, made it 38-27, and then, of course, you had the sack. A couple of possessions later, the Redskins would have to kick a field goal and make it 38-30. Bottom line is this: the offense just wasn't able to do enough. You have to be perfect when you're trying to come back from something like that. You have to take full advantage of your opportunities, and the Redskins weren't able to do that. You really boil this game down to 2 areas. The Vikings went 5 for 5 in red zone in this game, and coming in, they were in the bottom half of the league in red zone efficiency, and the Redskins were 2 for 4. Kirk Cousins actually was saying one of the things that frustrated him in this game is there was a chance for this team to put up 45 points. We didn't talk about the deep pass, kind of the post that he threw long to Josh Dotson, and that was a touchdown missed. He had another nice throw, kind of on a seam route. It was a strike, and it was right on the money, but Mackenzie Alexander recovered, batted away just at the last minute. So, again, I think that the upside is we did score the most points we've scored all season, but the bad thing is we needed to take more advantage of it, and we weren't able to. Kirk Cousins did not lose this football game. We needed Kirk Cousins to be absolutely perfect pretty much in this game if we were going to have a chance to come back and win. And, nobody. I just don't think on a week-to-week basis nobody's going to be that perfect in those particular situations. I thought Kirk had a solid game. I think, again, he gives you a shot to win pretty much every week, and I don't think we were that far from being in a position to win this football game. But we have to play better in every phase. We have to run the football better. We have to stay away from really bad turnovers and bad spots late in the half. We can't do that. And defensively, you can't give up 38 points. Right now, we're not a 38-point offense. It's a really depressing game. It's a really depressing game. I'm sitting here just kind of running it over in my mind, and it's just it doesn't get any better. Chris Thompson had a solid game. Again, Maurice Harris called up, and I want to spend a little bit of time on this. I don't know if Maurice Harris is going to get, a ton of time in these last 7 games, but I think the Redskins need to give him a really hard look. Right now, the position is this. Terrell Pryor played about 28% of the snaps in this game. He's become so much of a non-factor in this offense. And part of the reason for that is Josh Dotson has gotten to a point where he's able to pretty much take all the snaps they can give him, but they both play the X position. So they really don't want to have those guys on the field at the same time because it feels like they're limited on the whichever guy's on the other side from the X or however they want to do the formation. They're at a disadvantage. So that's where we're at right now. One of the things that Jay Gruden made a point of saying after the game about Mo Harris is that he can play all three positions. He has a good knowledge and a good ability to play all three, X, Y, and Z. So I think let's get him out there. Kirk Cousins seems very comfortable throwing to him. This guy's not going to blaze. He's not a blazer, but he's the kind of guy that'll make a quarterback look good. Good catch radius, good hands, catches with his hands, not a body catcher, and doesn't seem to let moments get too big for him. So I'd definitely love to see Mo Harris start this game opposite Josh Dotson, and let's go from there. Despite the drops, I thought Jamison Crowder had his second straight productive game. I mean, I think we've kind of broken out of that little slump it seemed like we were in with him. Vernon Davis continues to be awesome. But again, it's so frustrating to watch this offense at times because it just seems like one or two things hold us back from really exploding. And in this game, the red zone problems showed back up. So this game, feels like we're in a deeper hole than we are. You know what I mean? When you play a game like this and you're coming off such a big win against Seattle and you lay this kind of egg, it just feels like you're in a deeper hole than just 4-5. But I do want to switch gears, kind of move on. Let's put that game in the past. I do want to talk a little bit about the Saints game because I do think to some degree this game really – I'll tell you how I feel about it, okay? I've always felt like, look, I'm an optimist. So as long as I'm under 8 as long as I have a chance in the season to finish 9-7 or better, I feel like I've got a shot at the playoffs. Now, when you lose that 8th game, playoffs are out the window by most years. I don't want to say that this game is the season as far as determining the playoffs, but the reality is this: when you look at the rest of the NFC. The Redskins can't be 4-6 going into the final 6 games of the season and really feel good about their playoff chances. Not with Carolina being 7-3, and they're second place right now in the South. Atlanta's 5-4, still waiting on them to kind of make a run. And then out west, you have Seattle duking it out with the Rams. That's 3 teams right now that are in second place that are at least a game and a half above the Redskins. Who knows what's going to happen in the North with the Vikings? I mean, the Vikings right now are not going to say running away with the division, but they have a comfortable lead right now in that division. But you've got the Packers and the Lions both one game over 500. So the Redskins cannot afford to come out of this game with the Saints with a 4-6 record. I think it would pretty much do the playoffs in, and that's coming from a guy that doesn't like to concede that. And I said it a little bit before, and I said it because I believe it. The Saints right now, to me, are the most efficient offense in the game. Drew Brees is hitting over 70% of his passes. He's perfectly comfortable being that guy that completes 21 of 26 right now for 250 yards. Drew Brees doesn't have to be 35 out of 50 for 410 yards and 4 touchdowns. He doesn't have to be that right now. He doesn't have to be that right now because you have Mark Ingram, who is running the best he has in his entire career, and Alvin Kamara has completely changed the dynamic of this offense with his running and receiving. Right now, they have Mark Ingram, who's on pace for 1,200 yards. Kamara's on pace for 750. Let that sink in. I mean, that's the 70s called and said, nice job. I mean, we used to see those kind of numbers with Ron Earhart offenses. They're going to be a huge test on so many levels for this defense. We're playing the Saints at so much of the wrong time from an injury standpoint, because if you didn't hear, Will Compton went on IR, and now you're going to slide Martrell Spade in, who, again, is a splash player. This guy can make big plays for you, but the key is consistency. That's the big thing with him is, can he play a consistent 4-quarter football game? They desperately have to have that. They signed Zach Vigil, who was with the team, who's been with the team off and on for the last year and a half. He's one of the primary backups, and Josh Harvey Clemens is the other one. So we have a very young, inexperienced group coming in behind Zach Brown and Martrell Spate. And this offense is going to put a lot of stress on the linebacker position just because of how they like to use Kamara out of the backfield. You can't lose this guy. You can't lose where he's at or he will burn you. Whether it's a screen, he's their version of what we have in Chris Thompson. This defense has got to play good assignment football. We cannot allow ourselves to get – we can't play zone in this. I think – if we're going to get beat by Drew Brees, please let's get beat with tight man coverage. This guy throws into tight windows all the time. He's good at it. He's been great. So I'm not saying that he can't complete passes in tight windows, but if all we try to do is zone him, he'll eat us alive with Kobe Fleener. He'll eat us alive with Snead. He'll eat us alive with Michael Thomas. Please let's be aggressive. Let's man up on these guys. And let's see if the guys can, and let's see if our defense can rise up to the challenge. Offensively, they face a totally revamped, in every sense of the word. This Saint defense is playing out of its mind right now. Cowley and Marshawn Lattimore have done at corner is amazing. They man you up on the outside. It's given them the ability to be aggressive, try to create havoc at the line of scrimmage. Sheldon Rankins is a beast inside. Going to be very interested to see how our O-line handles the rush from the Saints. And we really need to run the football effectively, and that's where I kind of want to park a little bit too. Rob Kelly added to our list of IR inhabitants with a knee injury and he re-injured his ankle in the first half. So that pretty much ends his season, and now we get to see Samaje Perine. And Samaje Perine has an opportunity to take control of this running back position, and we've been waiting for somebody to do that. We've been waiting for somebody to do that since last year. Rob Kelly is a guy that you want to pull for. You want Rob Kelly to be good. You want him to be successful, but it just hasn't translated right now. In fact, I don't think he's been as effective a runner on any level as he was last year when he came in. It seems like he cuts in to tacklers a lot more, doesn't seem to run through contact like he did, but I know when he came back, the ankle still wasn't 100%, so it's hard to really judge him on that. But at no point this year have I felt like he was really in a good rhythm. I completely get if you say, hey, what running back does get in a good rhythm in Jay Gruden's offense? I mean, I'll say that. But we have to find a way to move the football consistently on the ground. The Redskins are probably going to have to score at least 34 in this game to win. I think our defense is going to have some problems with this offense. The other key for this defense is red zone. We have to hold teams, bend but don't break. That's got to be the key. It kept us in the Dallas game. It helped win the Seattle game. It kept us in the Kansas City game. We have to be a lot better than we were. That's what was so disappointing against Minnesota. When you show up and allow a team to go 5 for 5 in the red zone, it's hard to win like that. We're going to give up some yards. I think we'll give up some real estate, but we got to be good in the red zone. Special teams. We need something big to happen in this game on special teams. We've got. I'm not saying we got to have a score, but I feel like this is the kind of game that we've got to have a positive impact. Either a return, a block kick, something to steal a possession, and then we have to convert on that. We've got to have it when you're playing a team that's playing this well. The Saints remind me a lot of the Cowboys last year. It's very hard to get them out of rhythm. Last year, the Cowboys just had this sickening way of run Zeke Elliott. Okay, we're sitting at 3rd and 2. It's shooting ducks in a barrel. Fishing. Is it ducks in a barrel or fish in a barrel? It's fish in a barrel. Okay, let's throw on first down. We'll throw on first down. Set up maybe. That'll set up a 2nd and 3, 2nd and 2. We'll pound it. And you just constantly stay ahead of the chains. And the Saints, to me, are doing a lot of the same things. So the only way you get out of that is you got to be stout against the run. But you do have to try to steal some possessions in this game. And I guess to kind of close it, again, I think the Redskins have really historically in the Jay Gruden era, the Redskins have reacted well in games where you felt like their backs were against the wall. They did last year, climb out of an 0-2 hole. This year, after they responded after the Eagle game, they respond in the Seattle game. So hopefully this will be another one of these games where we respond. The other thing is we're playing away. So that might be a good thing, because I don't know if you watched that game Saturday, but if you did, there's a lot of purple. And I want to close with this. In my lifetime, I'll name the teams to me that I've always felt like traveled well in Redskin games. You've always known there's a chance you're going to have a decent contingent of Philadelphia fans and New York Giant fans, because it's just a train ride away. And certainly we don't have immigration laws that keep them out. Although for the Eagle fans, we should. Now, you know Dallas travels well. And there are a ton of Dallas Cowboy fans. One of the dirty little secrets in the DMV areas, there's a ton of Dallas fans. Or they'll tell you they're Dallas fans, they just hate the Redskins. And they'll just say, yeah, I'm a Dallas fan. Dallas typically has found ways to get people in the stadium. The Packers are a team that travels well. There are a lot of Packer fans around this nation. The Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the better, maybe the best traveling. They travel the best maybe of any team in the NFL. Those are 5 teams that I've always kind of felt like, okay, they travel well between their domicile and Washington. I never really thought I'd see the day where there was purple in our stadium doing their little crazy skull cheer or whatever. What is that? Is that Nordic? Is that some kind of Nordic thing? Minnesota's a rabid fan base. You have to be to go sit out there in 10-degree weather and watch football. You have to love what you're doing. Okay, I get that. But when was the last time, walking down the streets of the DMV, that you saw a Viking fan? When did that happen? I'll tell you when it's happened in my lifetime. I've never seen a Viking fan in my life. I've never met a Viking fan. No. I did at college one time, and he talked like somebody out of Fargo. And when he said he was a Viking fan, you thought, yep, what else would you be? So I've met one Viking fan in my entire life. I'm not mocking Viking fans, okay? I'm not. But, man, never seen that many Viking fans in one area except for Minnesota. It was embarrassing. And I'm not embarrassed because we've got fans who don't want to come see their team play. Because right now we have a 500 product. Our record, we are what our record says we are. We're a 4-5 football team. If I'm a season ticket holder and I have to renew, and I'm sitting here thinking, you know what? Am I going to renew or am I going to watch a 500 football team? Maybe I'm not going to renew. And I can get that. And there are so many ways now to get tickets. You've got StubHub. You've got NFL Ticket Exchange. There are some shady ticket places you can get tickets from. So the fact that there are more tickets out there and available, it's not surprising that other teams would put a few people in the stands. But I never dreamed we'd see that many Viking fans. I forget what player it was. One of the players that scored a touchdown saluted. I mean, he felt comfortable enough in our own stadium to salute the fans that were sitting on the front row, the Viking fans that were sitting on the front row. And the only way to change that, folks, is we have to start winning football games. People have to want to come out. The other thing, though, is a lot of Redskin fans don't like FedEx Field, and I'm one of them. I mean, they're my team. I love my team. But that's not a great stadium. It's not a homey feeling stadium. It's not particularly loud. So the fact that I was just shocked that Minnesota owned us like that. I was just absolutely amazed. We got to put a better product on the field. We got to give people a reason to want to come to the games. Got to give people a reason to want to spend that money and spend the time to come see the games. And that way, when Sven from Minnesota sits down and wants to start looking for tickets so he can go to Washington to see the game, there are no tickets to be found. That's what I want to see. I don't want to hear the horn blowing. I don't want to hear the and I don't want to see this. I don't want to see that. It wasn't there last year when we played the Vikings at home. None of that mess happened. It didn't happen. But it was just really bad. It was just really aggravating. But it was sort of like, I kind of felt like, these dudes that go on these safaris and see creatures that they haven't seen before. That's kind of what I felt like when I was watching it. I didn't know there were Viking fans out of Minnesota. Did Viking fans just travel that way? Are there that many? Was there a North Carolina Vikings contingent that decided to go see the game? I met one. His name was Rick. He had blonde hair. I mean, like a Norseman. No Rick and Morty references here. But anyway, my rant's over. The only way that's going to stop is we have to improve the product. If I'm Snyder, I'm filing this away for the new stadium. You don't need to build some kind of 80,000 seat behemoth, Be very vigilant, be very cognizant of what your fan base is, but what your actual number, what you really expect to get into the stadium. Because we got to start making this place home again. I mean, it really is embarrassing. The last 3 seasons, how many opposing fans come see us. I mean, Denver's coming Christmas Eve. And I don't know. Are we going to hear the Denver defense chant at that game? But anyway. All right. Well, that's all I've got. We'll recap the Saints game, win, lose, or draw, and I'll see you next week.
You like that?